She gave everything for her daughter's dream cafe. But when the staff kicked her out like a stranger, she didn't scream. She made one quiet phone call. That shut the whole place down. Ever spent years building something brick by brick, only to have someone walk in like you were never even there? Grace Drayton knew that feeling all too well. She wasn't loud, didn't need to be. At 62, she wore soft cotton dresses, her silver-streaked coils pinned back neatly, and carried herself with the kind of grace only a life of experience could teach. When Grace spoke, people listened, not because she demanded it, but because everything she said carried quiet wisdom. After nearly 4 decades as a pediatric nurse in Durham, North Carolina, Grace packed up her home, cashed out a large chunk of her retirement savings, and moved 3 hours south to Columbia. Not for retirement, not for beaches, but for her daughter, Sienna Hallberg. Sienna was her only child, bold, brilliant, bursting with ideas. Where Grace was quiet, Sienna could electrify a room. Different, yes, but bound by something deeper than words. Food, not just the eating of it, the soul of it. The kind of food with stories behind every bite, like Grace's storm-season gumbo, the peach cobbler her own mother used to bake from bruised fruit during hard times, collard greens slow-cooked with smoked turkey necks every Sunday. That was their shared dream, a small cafe where tradition met imagination, where soul food wasn't drowned in grease, but uplifted, thoughtful, rooted in memory, served fresh with love. They found a tiny storefront off Rosewood Drive, not far from the university. Worn-out hardwood floors, ugly light fixtures, a kitchen that barely worked. Sienna hesitated, but Grace had already seen it with a mother's eyes. She pulled out her notepad and went to work. Licensing, inspections, lease negotiations. She painted the walls herself, mustard yellow, like her grandmother's kitchen in '63, bought used kitchen equipment from a retired chef, handled every detail with care. Sienna took charge of branding, named it Hallberg House, sleek, modern, a little cold, Grace thought, but she said nothing. This was her daughter's time. When they opened, it was slow. A few college students stopped in for matcha lattes and cornbread waffles. But by the 3rd month, the brunch line wrapped around the block. Instagram raved, food blogs gushed. Hallberg House was the new Southern chic hotspot. Sienna insisted Grace be part of every tasting, every staff meeting. "People trust you, Mama," she'd say. "You bring the heart to this place." And she did. Grace trained the new cooks, taught them how to smell when sweet potatoes were overboiled, sat with guests, and shared stories behind the recipes. It felt right. But success does strange things. By month 6, Hallberg House was booming. One blogger called it a soulful revolution. Another called Sienna the next Carla Hall, with better branding. Sienna started changing. Custom aprons, jumpsuits, high heels in the kitchen, interviews, live streams, talk of expansion. Grace clapped for her, genuinely. But watching her daughter drift away while smiling like nothing was wrong, that kind of heartbreak is quiet. It doesn't make a sound. The staff changed, too. Locals were replaced with out-of-towners, culinary grads with polished resumes. They didn't know Grace. One of them, a 23-year-old sous chef named Gage, called her ma'am and told her to stay out of the prep area. Grace laughed it off, at first, but the comments came. "You don't have to come every Thursday, Mom. We're aiming for less homestyle, more polished." Grace would nod, smile, then go home and sit in silence, wondering where she'd vanished to. She didn't complain, just faded slowly, like a light being dimmed. Until one morning, her favorite stool near the espresso machine was gone. replaced by a cold, modern chair. The kitchen smelled of lemon zest, not garlic. The cornbread now had saffron. Grace never used saffron a day in her life. She tried to speak up, but Sienna waved her off. This is growth, Mama. A new chapter. But to Grace, it didn't feel like growth. It felt like erasure. And then came Declan Frey, Sienna's new general manager, all slick suits and speed. He had charts for everything, talked fast, moved faster. Grace didn't trust fast talkers. She watched from a distance. Still, she showed up, baked muffins, wiped tables, helped where she could. Some customers still remembered her, even if the staff didn't. But the tension? It got louder. One Wednesday, Grace overheard Declan say to a hostess, "Charlene's sweet, but she slows things down. We need the front clean of distractions." Distractions. The word hit her chest like ice. She didn't say anything. Not then. But something changed inside her. And that Saturday, that was the day everything cracked. Grace arrived, like always, 9 a.m. sharp, balancing a tray of warm sweet potato muffins. The back door, usually open, was shut tight. She knocked. No answer. Finally, a teenage dishwasher cracked the door. Nervous. Apologetic. Declan said, "No more family through the back." Grace smiled gently. "Sweetheart, I built this place with Sienna." The girl just stood there. So Grace walked in anyway. The kitchen was colder now, emotionally and literally. She headed toward the prep station, only to be blocked by a tattooed cook with headphones who didn't even glance her way. Then she heard him. "Mrs. Drayton." Declan, arms crossed, voice firm. "I'm going to have to ask you to leave." Grace blinked. "Non-staff aren't allowed in the prep area." She looked at the tray in her hands. "I've been bringing these muffins since we opened." "I understand. But Sienna wants operational boundaries. So I'm being asked to leave my own business?" "It's not personal," he said. But it was. She looked around. No one met her eyes. Then, slowly, Grace began rewrapping the tray. "Who's walking me out?" Declan hesitated, then called over a young busboy barely 2 weeks in. "Could you walk Mrs. Drayton out, please?" Grace didn't look at him. She picked up the tray, straightened her back, and walked through the dining room. Someone called her name. A customer. "Miss Grace, you leaving already?" Grace smiled. "Just for now. Sugar." But something inside her had snapped. Not loud, just a clean, silent break. She walked straight to her car, set the tray down, sat there, engine off. No radio, no AC, just stillness. Nobody had even checked to see if she was still there. That told her everything. 8 minutes later, she picked up her phone, scrolled past church texts and reminders, until she reached Marla Penrose. "Marla," she said, "I need a letter drafted." "What kind?" "A temporary shutdown notice. Full control back to the majority shareholder, effective immediately." "You're exercising your rights?" Marla asked. "Yes," Grace said. 72% still belongs to me. I think it's time they remembered that." When the call ended, Grace leaned back in her seat. No anger, no drama, just clarity. She uncovered the muffins, took a bite, still warm. Perfect. Then she spotted a young woman walking past and smiled. "Hey, sweetie, you hungry?" The girl nodded. Grace handed her a muffin. The girl took a bite and froze. "Oh my God, this is amazing." Grace just smiled, eyes calm. "Be well, baby." She watched the young woman walk away, still chewing, eyes wide with wonder. Then Charlene rolled her window back up, rested the remaining muffins in her lap, and looked at her own reflection in the rearview mirror. There were no tears, no anger, just a woman staring back who knew exactly who she was. Inside Halberg House, No one saw the storm coming. Not Simone, not Declan, not the staff who had smiled past her like she was wallpaper. But they were all about to remember what happens when you try to erase the very woman who helped breathe life into the place. Charlene didn't need to raise her voice. She didn't need to curse, scream, or throw a scene. She just needed to act. As she eased the car out of the alley, she wasn't driving away from a restaurant. She was driving toward a reckoning. At exactly 4:32 p.m., the first email landed in the Hallberg House inboxes. Subject line, immediate operational hold. Hallberg House. Most of the staff ignored it at first. They were elbow-deep in fryer oil, wiping down counters after the lunch rush. Nobody noticed until the second email hit. This one had a different subject. Staff termination notices. Effective immediately. That got attention. Phones buzzed. Whispers spread. Declan was in the office updating next week's schedule when alerts flooded in. 3, then 5, then 8. Each email came from a legal team linked to Drayton Trust Holdings, Charlene's personal estate. Declan shot up so fast his chair tipped backward. "Someone go get Simone," he barked. Simone was in the walk-in fridge, counting citrus crates. She didn't flinch until she saw Declan's face. "What now?" she asked. "She pulled the rug out," he said, breathless. "Your mother. She's invoking her rights as majority shareholder. The restaurant's shut down. Immediately." Simone blinked. "She can't." "She owns 72%. Declan cut in. "She absolutely can." Simone stormed upstairs, 2 steps at a time. By the time she burst into the kitchen, the room was chaos. Sierra, the dishwasher, looked pale. "They said I'm fired. I didn't even do anything," she stammered. Andres held up his phone. "Me too. All I did was walk someone out." "Who sent these?" Simone asked. "Drayton Holdings," Gage muttered, reading the footer of the email. Simone froze. That was her mother's trust, the one Grace set up when they first signed the lease, the one she'd told Simone never to forget, just in case things ever go sideways. Simone hadn't listened. Now everything had gone sideways. Declan stepped closer. "What do you want me to do?" Simone didn't answer. She looked around the now quiet dining room. Echoes of laughter and clinking forks felt haunting now. She thought of her mother's hands, covered in paint from those yellow walls, of that plaque by the register with both their names, of the muffins. Always the muffins. Then she saw it. The tray. Sitting near the register. One muffin, bitten. A message. Charlene had come in peace. They had responded with policy. And now, this was the consequence. "I need to talk to her," Simone said quietly. Declan hesitated. "That might not be a good idea." "I don't care." She walked out the front door, hands still sticky with citrus oil. Charlene was already home, seated at her kitchen table, sipping ginger tea with lemon. The windows were open. The air was calm. A knock came. "Come in," she said, without turning. Simone stepped inside, tense, flushed, and fuming. "You shut me down," she said. Charlene nodded. "Yes. You fired my staff." "No," Charlene said calmly. "I fired my staff. You just forgot they were mine." Simone stepped further into the kitchen. "You humiliated me." Charlene's voice didn't rise. "You embarrassed yourself. I just cleaned up the mess." Simone dropped into a chair. "Mom, do you have any idea how this looks, what people are going to say?" Charlene stirred her tea, unfazed. "People talk. What matters is what you do next." Simone stared at her, arms crossed, jaw tight, but underneath, rattled. "You think I don't respect you?" Charlene raised an eyebrow. "I think you stopped remembering what respect feels like." In that moment, Simone wasn't a brand, or a boss, or the face of a restaurant. She was just a daughter, across the table from the woman who taught her how to stand tall. The old wooden clock on the wall ticked softly, same one from Simone's childhood kitchen. Back then, it had felt comforting. Now it sounded impossibly loud. Charlene didn't push. She never did. Finally, Simone broke the silence. "You blindsided me." Charlene shook her head. "Number, I warned you. Quietly, repeatedly. I asked you to talk to your staff, set the tone. You didn't. So now we're having a different kind of conversation." "You could have told me before you shut it all down, given me a chance to fix it." Charlene's gaze locked on hers. "You had your chance the moment I was escorted out of the kitchen like I didn't belong." Simone looked down. "I didn't know they were going to do that." "But you allowed it," Charlene replied. "That's what you keep missing." Simone ran a hand through her hair. "I wasn't trying to erase you. I just wanted to modernize, make it efficient, professional." Charlene leaned forward. "You think professionalism means forgetting who built the table you're eating at?" Simone's jaw clenched. "That's not what I meant." "Then why is my name no longer on the wall?" Simone blinked. "What?" "The plaque. Founded by Charlene Drayton and Sienna Halberg. It used to hang by the register. It's gone." Simone swallowed hard. She hadn't noticed. Charlene shook her head. "It's not about muffins or titles. It's about memory, legacy, story. That place was never supposed to be just a brand. It was supposed to be a home, and you turned it into a billboard." Simone looked away, out the window. A soft breeze rustled the porch fern. "I didn't mean to." "I know," Charlene said, "but that doesn't undo the damage." Silence. "I thought I was building something for both of us," Simone whispered. "You were," Charlene replied. "But then the cameras came, and you stopped feeling it. That place turned into a stage." Simone winced. Charlene stood and took 2 plates down from the cabinet, set a muffin on each, placed one in front of her daughter. "Eat." Simone looked at it, then up at her mother. "You still made these?" Charlene nodded. "I always do, even when nobody asks for them." Simone took a bite. Same warm spices, same memory, same aching lump in her throat. Tears threatened but didn't fall. Charlene's voice softened. "I'm not your staff, Sienna. I'm your mother. I've been showing up since before you could say my name right." Simone's eyes filled. "I know. You're talented. No one's doubting that. But don't let the spotlight make you forget who helped hang the first light bulb." Simone set the muffin down and wiped her hands. "So what now? Is the restaurant shut down for good?" Charlene took a sip of tea. "Number just long enough to remind folks what built it. Then I'll reopen it. Different team, new manager, one who understands that legacy isn't disposable. It's sacred." Simone flinched. "So I'm out?" Charlene answered slowly. "I'm not cutting you out, but I am putting you on pause. You need to decide whether you're in this for the food or the fame." Simone didn't respond, just nodded, barely. Charlene reached across the table and placed a hand gently over hers. "You can come back when you're ready, but next time, don't make me fight for my name, in a place I helped build." And in that moment, something broke. Not the business, not the bond, but the illusion Simone had been clinging to. And when it broke, all that was left was the truth. 2 weeks later, Halberg House remained shuttered. From the outside, it looked the same golden logo, same striped awning. But inside, a different story. Tables rearranged, walls stripped of influencer headshots, menu boards gone. Only the scent of fresh paint lingered. Charlene stood near the entrance, clipboard in hand, talking to a contractor about refinishing the floors. Because legacy doesn't die. It gets rebuilt properly. She wore comfortable sneakers and a soft denim blouse, sleeves rolled to her elbows. Her hair was wrapped in a cobalt scarf, and her voice, business, clear, controlled. "No granite," Charlene said firmly. "We're keeping the butcher block counters. That's history." The contractor nodded. Understood. Outside, a delivery truck backed into the alley. Charlene checked her watch. 4:02 p.m., right on time. She liked that. Inside, 2 new hires were being shown around by Mavis Delian, a retired pastry chef and one of Charlene's oldest friends. Charlene had convinced her to come back part-time. Mavis pointed her spoon like a baton. "Y'all mess up Miss Charlene's recipes, she'll know, even if you leave out a 1/4 teaspoon of clove." One of the new line cooks chuckled nervously. "Noted." Charlene caught the tail end of it as she walked in. "We'll be doing trial runs all next week," she said, setting down her clipboard. "You make mistakes. Now's the time. Just don't repeat 'em." Her tone wasn't sharp. It was steady. She wasn't angry anymore, and she sure wasn't trying to prove anything. What she was doing now, it wasn't revenge, it was restoration. The staff who had let disrespect bloom in silence, gone. Declan never replied beyond a 1-line email. Received. Understood. Simone hadn't been back since their conversation, and Charlene hadn't called. She wasn't in the business of chasing people who weren't ready to face the past. The new team? They listened. They asked questions. Some of them didn't even know the cafe had gone viral. They weren't here for fame. They were here because they believed in what Charlene called cooking with memory. She had made one small change to the paperwork. The name was now officially Drayton and Halberg. Simone never asked about it. But Charlene didn't need her permission. Ownership already belonged to her. Legally, yes, but spiritually, too. Word began to spread. The cafe is reopening. New management. Miss Charlene is back. Handwritten notes started appearing on the front door. Hope to see Miss Charlene back behind the counter. Bring the muffins. Saturdays haven't been the same. She read every single one. No social media blast. No announcement. No interviews. Just elbow grease. A mop. A schedule. A clipboard. One afternoon, Charlene stood by the counter, removing the last sign that had only Simone's name. She didn't do it with bitterness. She folded it gently, placed it in a cardboard box labeled Office Archive, because she wasn't erasing her daughter. She was making room for both of them. Mavis tapped her on the shoulder while Charlene was labeling spice jars. "You sure you want to do this alone?" Charlene smiled. "I'm not alone. I've got cinnamon, nutmeg, and a whole community waiting on muffins." Mavis laughed. "And a whole new crew watching your every move." Charlene glanced toward the kitchen, where young cooks stirred roux and diced onions with wide eyes. "Good," she said. "That's how they learn." She wiped her hands, walked into the dining area, and paused where the old plaque used to hang. A box sat nearby. Inside, the new one had arrived that morning. She opened it slowly, brushing dust from the corners. The brass gleamed. She read the engraving out loud to herself. Built by memory. Sustained by love. Drayton and Halberg. She smiled, grabbed the drill, and mounted the plaque with her own hands. Straight, level, centered. As she stepped back to admire it, a familiar voice came from behind. "Didn't think you'd still be drilling plaques yourself." Charlene turned slowly. Simone stood in the doorway, arms crossed, but not in defiance. This time it looked more like hesitation, maybe even a little shame. Charlene didn't say a word at first, just looked her up and down. No heels, no embroidered apron, just jeans and a plain t-shirt. It was the version of Simone Charlene hadn't seen in a long time. "You come to eat?" Charlene asked. "Or talk?" Simone stepped forward. "Both. I figured it was time." Charlene nodded toward a table. "Sit. Muffins are in the back." Simone walked slowly through the café, taking it all in. The clean walls, the quiet hum of a new team, the scent of smoked turkey, cinnamon, and something else she couldn't name. It felt different, but it still felt like home. Charlene returned with 2 plates, set one down. Simone took a bite, still warm, still tender. "They're still warm," she said softly. "They always are," Charlene replied, "when they're made with care." A silence followed, long enough to be uncomfortable, but necessary. Simone cleared her throat. "I've been thinking." Charlene raised an eyebrow. "That's good. Thinking's how we got here. It's also how we move forward." Simone placed the muffin down. "I messed up. I let other people define the tone. I thought growth meant letting go of the old stuff. But I didn't realize I was letting go of you." Charlene leaned back. "You're not the first person to forget your roots when the branches start reaching higher. But baby, you still have to water where you came from." Simone looked down. "I never should have let them treat you like that. Like you were in the way." Charlene's voice didn't soften too much. She was still her. "Words matter, but so does follow-through. You know that. Presentation's one thing, but what's behind it?" Simone nodded. "I'm not here to ask for my job back. I need to step away, for real this time." Charlene was surprised, but she didn't interrupt. "I've been volunteering at a food program near Columbia Heights. No cameras, no buzz, just people who need meals." She hesitated. "I came to ask if I could use one of the old recipes. The red beans and rice. I want to serve it there." Charlene said nothing at first. Just broke off a piece of muffin and chewed slowly. Then she smiled. Quiet. Certain. "Those beans were your great-grandmother's. She fed half of Edgefield with them before you were even born. I think she'd be proud to see him feeding people again." Simone's eyes glistened. "Thank you." Charlene stood, cleared the plates, and came back. "I'm reopening Tuesday. No ribbon cutting, no press. Just regulars." Simone stood too. "I won't get in your way." Charlene tilted her head. "You were never in my way, Simone. You just stopped walking beside me." Simone nodded, quiet. She turned to go, but just before she reached the door, Charlene called out, "You still got a key?" Simone looked down at her purse, then back. "Yeah." Charlene smiled just a little. "Don't lose it. You might need it again." Simone smiled too. "I'll keep it close." And when the door closed behind her, Charlene didn't feel like she'd won. She felt like something crooked had finally straightened. Tuesday morning arrived under cloudy skies. No balloons, no news crews, just a breeze that carried the scent of cinnamon, coffee, and something good about to happen. Charlene arrived before sunrise. She unlocked the door with her own hands. Quiet, steady. By 7:15, a small line had formed outside. No foodies, no influencers, just the people who remembered, the ones who'd seen it from the beginning. Inside, Mavis hummed in the kitchen, laying out warm biscuits. "You ready?" she asked, adjusting her apron. Charlene buttoned her blouse. "Been ready," she said. "Just had to remind a few folks." The first customers walked in with soft smiles and loud greetings. "There she is, Miss Charlene." "You back for good now?" Charlene grinned as she poured coffee and slid muffins across the counter. "I never left," she said. "Just been replanting the roots. The young staff moved smoothly, their rhythm guided by calm, by care, by legacy. And at 9:30, a woman in a navy head wrap stepped in, holding a small girl with tight braids and wide eyes. "I heard the muffins were back," she said. Charlene smiled. They never left, just took a rest. She handed over two wrapped in parchment. The girl took one bite and danced. That was worth more than all the 5-star reviews Simone had ever chased. That afternoon, Simone came quietly through the side door. She didn't say much. She just helped Mavis wipe down the prep station, stacked plates. Charlene didn't stop her. She just said, "Gloves are still in the drawer. If you're going to be back here, use 'em." Simone nodded, smiling, grateful, and quieter than before. Because real change isn't loud. It's steady, like love, like memory, like a muffin, still warm. She didn't need a lecture. The moment itself had already spoken. By closing time, the register drawer was full, the guest book covered in names, notes, and scribbles from folks who remembered. Charlene was tired, but the good kind. The kind that settles in your bones like peace. The kind that tells you the work meant something. She turned the sign to closed, locked the door, and paused. Just stood there for a moment, staring out at the sidewalk where her journey had once started and almost ended. "You good?" Mavis called from behind, dish towel tossed over her shoulder. Charlene exhaled through her nose. "I'm better than I've been in a long time." She walked back into the kitchen, turned off the burners, laid both palms flat on the prep table, like a prayer, like a memory. She thought of all the women in her family who never got to run their own place, thought of all the times she held her tongue to keep the peace. And how, when the line finally got crossed, she didn't explode. She didn't scream. She corrected the course, not just for herself, for Simone, for the staff, for the next young woman who walks into a kitchen thinking legacy is just a name in a brochure. It's not. Legacy is how you're treated when no one's looking. Legacy is whether your name still carries weight when you're not in the room. Legacy is standing your ground, not to block someone else's path, but to remind them who cleared it. And that's exactly what Charlene Drayton did. The following Saturday morning, Drayton and Halberg was alive again. Early crowd, tables full, families, old neighbors, students from Benedict College, even a retired professor who once graded Simone's freshman essays. The air was thick with the smell of spiced yams, hot cakes crisp at the edges, and browned butter. Charlene stood behind the counter, not hidden in the back anymore, but at the heart of it all. No longer the quiet force holding things together. Now the woman people nodded to as they passed, smiled at without needing to ask her name. They knew. On the far wall beneath the new plaque hung a black and white photo. Charlene and her grandmother standing over a pot of gumbo in a tiny Edgefield kitchen, circa 1970s. Beneath it, etched in brass, "Our recipes begin with the women who fed us long before we could name our hunger." Mid-morning, Simone walked in, notebook in one hand, 2 paper bags in the other. Charlene glanced up. "You bring me more spices I didn't ask for?" Simone chuckled. "Nope. Donations for the food program. Figured you could help me make 'em stretch." Charlene waved her over. "Good. You can help peel." And they did. Side by side. No script, no tension. Just hands busy with purpose. A few feet away, Mavis was mentoring one of the new kids. "See how she chops that parsley? Clean, confident. That's not just muscle memory, that's soul memory." Charlene overheard and smiled. "Don't go filling their heads with poetry, Mavis. Let 'em learn to keep the station clean first." Mavis laughed. "You clean? I talk pretty." Even Simone cracked a grin, her hands still covered in carrot shavings. Later, during the quiet between breakfast and lunch, Charlene stepped outside. She liked watching the place from the sidewalk, from a little distance. The cafe buzzed behind the glass, like a living thing. She stood beside the bench where she used to sit after early prep, where she once sat feeling humiliated and erased. Now, that fire inside her had changed, still burning, but now it was focused, warm, purposeful. A young woman walked by and stopped. "Excuse me," she said. "Is this your place?" Charlene turned. "It is." "I'm visiting from Alabama. My cousin told me I had to come here, said the muffins changed her life." Charlene raised an eyebrow. "That's a mighty big claim for a muffin." The girl smiled. She said, "It tasted like someone had forgiven her." Charlene didn't speak right away, just nodded once. "Tell your cousin I said thank you. And that forgiveness tastes better warm." That evening, when the last tables were cleared and the chairs flipped upside down on the tabletops, Simone stayed to help mop. Charlene didn't ask her to. She just did it. The rhythm between them was different now. No one was rushing to impress. No one was chasing approval. They were just working. "I was thinking," Simone said as she wrung out the mop, "maybe we do a Sunday supper once a month. Less polished, more stories, fewer phones, just food and people." Charlene nodded. "That could work." Simone looked at her. "You'd run it." Charlene smiled. "I already do." They both laughed. Not bitter, not tense, just easy, because real respect isn't handed out. It's earned, re-earned, protected. As they turned off the lights and stepped outside, the street was still and soft. The kind of quiet Charlene liked. The kind you earned after a full day done right. Simone reached for the door key, but paused. "You sure I should still have this?" Charlene looked at her. "It was never about the key, baby. It's about how you carry it." Simone pocketed it carefully. Close. And as they walked to the parking lot together, no titles, no cameras, just mother and daughter, Charlene knew something for certain. Recipes can be copied. Menus can change. But the real legacy? It's how you make people feel. And that lasts. Thanks for watching. If this story made you feel something, share it. Respect your roots. Protect what you've built. And don't forget, who taught you how to hold the spoon? Subscribe for more real stories that matter.